Hello guys, welcome to the Racing Roundtable. Hope you're all having a great day. Today's video is a mid-season driver review of the 2022 Formula 1 season. We've had 11 races so far, there's 11 more to go, and it's a great time to just look at an overview of what's happened so far in the season. So, in first place in the Drivers' Championship is Max Verstappen, and for me he gets an 8.5 out of 10 because he's been maximizing his results. He hasn't really made mistakes per se, and every time he finished a race during the early part of the season, he finished first. So he's been maximizing pretty much the result he could get every race. Silverstone finished 7th with the damage, went from 1st to 7th. There's nothing much he could do about that. But there are two issues I have with him. Number one is his whining phase. When stuff doesn't go right for him, he whines for a long time. Now the whining itself is not an issue. It's the amount of time he spends whining. Because, of course, something may not go right. You've done everything right yourself, but then something just happens outside of your control and yeah, you're pissed off. Understandable. But to continue whining lap after lap after lap, you need to chill down a bit. Get your head down. He does get his head down eventually, but you just need to spend more energy driving the car. Don't worry too much about the issue because, there's nothing much you can do. You just have to crack on with it. But yeah, all you have to do is just reduce the whining phase he has. And then, and the second thing is, he forces drivers off the track one-on-one battles. Like, for example, against Mick at Silverstone, forced him off. He loves to do that a lot. He puts you in an uncompromising position, but is not fair with it. He just forces you off. He just opens. Look at Brazil, 2021. Just forced Lewis off. He lost the car. He lost the corner. Lewis was far ahead. He just decided to brake way too late and not steer the car. He forced both of them off. So yeah. But he needs to sort those two things out and he'll be fine. Because he's on his way to being a great driver. Maybe not one of the greatest of all time, but he's on his way to being a great driver. Moving on to Charleston Clerk. He also gets an 8.5 out of 10 because he's had some great races. He's been fast at every track. But he's also had a couple of mistakes and Ferrari have messed him over. So you have to take that into account. His biggest mistake of the season, I think, was Imola. Chasing Perez and he spins out the chicane, ruining his race, and then finishing, what was it, 6th, 7th, 8th, something like that. So he was in a championship battle. Ferrari making mistakes, unreliability issues, just take him out of it basically, pretty much. So he gets an 8.5 out of 10, that's the same as Max. Issue with Charles is he does have the bozo factor in him. He has the bozo DNA. He can make a mistake, a crap mistake too. So he needs to get rid of that and he'll be all fine. Perez gets a 7. He's not really done much other than getting pole at Saudi Arabia and winning at Monaco. Other than that, not really done much. Not being consistent, not being in the fight for wins enough. At least Sainz has been there or thereabouts sometimes. Perez doesn't really. If he's third, he's far away in third. He's not that close. He doesn't really battle Max. Like maybe try and show Max that you can't just assume that I'll let you past. Or assume that team orders means that I can't touch you. You can try something, not necessarily damage the team dynamic, but you can try something, but he hasn't really done that. So he's kind of been a sideman, in a way, with all due respect. But he has had decent performances, so that's why he gets a 7. Carlos Sainz gets a 7.5. He got the race win at Silverstone. He made a mistake there, which allowed Max to overtake him. Obviously, Max couldn't win because of the AlphaTauri thingy. But he almost won in Canada, but he just couldn't quite overtake Max. Didn't have the straight line speed. And he also made a mistake on the penultimate lap, which I expected to happen because Carlos Sainz just doesn't have the extra percentage you need to be a consistent race winner, to be a world champion. I don't think he has it in him. But he has had decent performances. He has been fairly consistent. And he's been really let down by Ferrari's unreliability. Been really let down. Baku, for example. And he had some bad luck, Imola, but he's also made mistakes again, Australia, so he gets a 7.5 out of 10. George Russell gets a 9 because he's barely made any mistakes. He's only made 2 big mistakes. Number 1, Silverstone, the start of the race. Number 2, Austria, qualifying crash, pushing too hard. But other than that, he's maximized, I'm talking literally maximized what he could get out of that Mercedes. He got a streak of top 5 finishes. Some luck fell in his lap in terms of finishing ahead of Lewis, finishing in the points in the top 5. But he has maximized what he could do with that Mercedes. He really has. He's been very consistent. So up until Silverstone, he didn't really make any mistakes, so he's had a great season. Lewis gets an 8 out of 10. Again, he's been a bit unlucky with safety cars and stuff like that, but it's he also hasn't really maximized results. And again, there is something you have to take into account, which is he's been the guinea pig for Mercedes. He's been running experimental setups for Mercedes up until around Silverstone, because they needed to understand what was wrong with the car, and he was the chosen one because he's been with the team the longest. He knows the team. He's more experienced than Russell. He's better than Russell. So getting feedback from him will allow Mercedes a more accurate representation of what the car is doing, how the car is. His best result was Silverstone, finishing third, but he's got I think it was 2-3 podiums in a row now, and yeah, until now he hasn't really been maximizing results. Imola, for example, couldn't really get past Pierre Gasly with or without DRS, and I know the Mercedes was porpoising a lot. It was porpoising like a mofo back then, but the Mercedes was still faster than the AlphaTauri, surely. So he couldn't really maximize things, but he was able to. He's been able to get into a stride. So I'll give him an 8 out of 10. Lando Norris gets a 7.5 because, again, he got a podium at Imola. He's been able to maximize results sometimes, but he's had races where he hasn't really been anywhere, and the McLaren isn't that good. Let's be real. The McLaren isn't really that good. They've flopped hard. James Key has flopped hard, but Lando has been lubricating, baptizing, anointing, engineering Daniel Ricciardo's McLaren career for the past 2 years. He's outperformed him on the madness. He's got 64 points right now. Daniel Ricciardo's on 17. It's been a mismatch. It's been domination. So he gets a 7.5 out of 10 for me. So Esteban Ocon, I'm just going to try and breeze through these guys. Esteban gets a 7 out of 10. Again, he's been outperforming Alonso, but Alonso has also had bad luck. But Ocon's had some good results. Austria, he had a decent pace. I can't remember where he finished, but he had a decent race, and he's had decent races. So 7 out of 10. Valtteri Bottas gets a 7 out of 10 as well. Beginning of the season, he looked good. The Alfa Romeo looked good, but unreliability has plagued his season, as well as making mistakes. Imola, for example, made a couple of mistakes there over the course of the weekend. Alonso gets a 7.5. He's had some decent races, being plagued by bad luck, big time. Being plagued by bad luck, unreliability, and but he's managed to come back from those. He could have started 4th or 3rd in Australia. Could have had a great race there, but didn't happen for him. Hydraulic issue. Canada, he started 2nd, I think it was, but that start was horrific. Man was talking about how he's going to try and challenge for Max into turn 1. Didn't even do anything, So he's had some faults. He's had some bad luck, but he's had some decent times. Then we move on to Kevin Magnussen, 6.5 out of 10. Had a great season at the beginning. The vibes were back. He was happy. He was happy to be back at Haas. The vibes, being back in Formula One, having a mindset reset. What? I actually want to be in Formula One. I know I won't win the championship. I may not win races, but I want to be in Formula One. He made that realization, came back, had that great race back, great first 2-3 races, but then it all fell apart. The Haas is a decent car, don't get me wrong, but Kevin Magnussen's made 2 mistakes on the first lap, and both were against Lewis Hamilton. Spain, a bit too aggressive, could have maybe been a little bit wider, because he should have expected Lewis to maybe understay a little, because he was on the inside, heavy fuel, first lap, should have been a bit more cautious. Canada was completely his fault. Canada was bad. He was way too aggressive. He should have learned from his mistake. Should have been a bit more cautious, but he wasn't. So he threw away points for Haas there. Could have got great points in Spain and Canada, but flopped. So 6.5 out of 10. Daniel Ricciardo, 4. He's had an abysmal season. He's been so bad. He's carried on what he was doing last season to this season. And the McLaren isn't a good car, but Daniel Ricciardo, you can't even try to be quick in a bad car. It's like that car is bad and you still cannot adapt to it. You still cannot be fast in it. It's sad for him. He needs to leave, or McLaren need to do their utmost. They need to do their best to get Ricardo back into the mix of things, because I feel like maybe they're not really doing everything they can. Maybe in terms of setup, updates, stuff like that. And that is also partially to blame because you're driving the car and Lando's outperforming you on a mad one. So you need to back up your ideas, or just, maybe try and leave F1, try and leave McLaren, try and do something, So 4 out of 10 for Ricardo. Gasly gets a 4.5 out of 10. He has not had a good season at all. The AlphaTauri recently has been a gutter trash car. They need to bring updates to that ASAP, which I think they're doing. But Gasly's had some bad races. He's had some bad races, man. Especially recently. Austria. Man, Pierre Gasly, this guy got 2 separate 5-second time penalties. One for the collision with Vettel and the other one for track limits. He ruined Vettel's race. I mean, I don't think Vettel was in the points anyway, but he ruined his race. And he needs a summer break to come ASAP. He needs a reset. AlphaTauri need upgrades. So he gets a 4.5 out of 10. I don't really recall any great races he's had this season. Let me know down in the comments if he's had maybe a great race in your opinion. But I don't really think he has. Vettel gets a 7 because, again, trash car. But he's had some decent results. He had some bad luck. People crashing into... He's like an idiot magnet. Like, people crashing into him. Mick crashed into him at Miami. Gasly crashed into him. But Vettel's also made a couple of mistakes. But for the most part, he's had an alright season, considering the circumstances. Mick gets a 7. I'll say 7. I was going to say 6.5, but I'll say 7. Because beginning of the season, he was not there at all. Made that big mistake in Saudi Arabia. Big mistake in Monaco. But recently he's been finding his form, finding the confidence, being at one with the car and getting those points. He's been getting those dubs. He's gotten 12 points so far in the last 2 races. And yeah, he's coming into his own. The angry Schumacher is the best Schumacher. He's got that fire within him now. He's getting there. Who knows? Maybe by the end of the season, he will overtake Kevin and get maybe 50 points. Who knows? Haas haven't bought any upgrades yet as well. So imagine what Mick could do with all that confidence, all that assertiveness, with those upgrades that potentially make the Haas faster. Maybe Mick can say what's up by the end of the season. Tsunoda gets a 4 as well. Has done nothing of note this season. I think Imola was his best race. I think he finished maybe 6th or something, or maybe 7th. It was something like that. But I don't know how many point scoring finishes he's had this season. But if you're below Pierre and Pierre had a bad season, I mean, come on. 4 out of 10. Zhou Guan Yu gets a 5 because he hasn't really done much. He does seem to have the pace, and he's taken him a while to get to grips with the Alfa Romeo, with this generation of cars. And obviously it's his rookie season, so you can't really be too strict on him. But he gets a 5. He's got some points. He had that unfortunate accident at Silverstone. Thankfully, the halo exists. But he's had some bad luck with unreliability as well. I think Alfa Romeo have had the most double DNFs, possibly, from memory. But Zhou gets a 5 out of 10. Albon gets a 6.5 out of 10. No, I'll give him a 7 because he's driving the worst car on the grid, the Williams. And Australia was a great race. Masterstroke of strategy, of time management, doing all those laps on the tyres and then I think he started on the hard tyres and then went onto the soft. So the red hair did some wonders for him. But recently he hasn't really been doing anything because the Williams is a trash car at the end of the day. And he's been outperforming the Latifi. But that's not a great achievement in itself. So he gets a 6.5 out of 10. Lance Stroll gets a 4 as well. Has not done anything. Vettel asserting himself on the team. The fact that your son, Lawrence Stroll, Lance, is not that good of a driver. He's average. Vettel is a good quality driver. He's past his best, but he's still a good quality driver. Stroll is a mixed conditions merchant. The Aston Martin is trash, but to only have 3 points when Vettel has... Vettel has 15 points. Vettel has 5 times more points than you. You need to buck up your ideas, get the pace. I don't know if he's been unlucky at times, but Lance Stroll is a bang average driver, but he's underperforming. So yeah, 4 out of 10. Nicholas Latifi gets a 4 as well. Hasn't done much. Yeah, qualified P10 at Silverstone Q3 with that crap car, but yeah, it's Latifi. He hasn't really done much. What to expect? What do you expect from the guy? Like, he's only there because of his dad's money. So 4 out of 10. Obviously, I wouldn't be rating Nico Hulkenberg because he only filled in for 2 races whilst Vettel was sick. So I want you guys to look at this picture, thanks to ScuderiaFans.com. Here, as of Austria 2022, is the percentage of team points scored. I hope this is accurate because I'm not going to bother going on to Excel doing some mad formulas. Like, that's long. So I hope this is accurate. They spelled George Russell's name wrong, by the way, but that's neither here nor there. So as we can see, at the top is where the percentage of team points scored is less reliant on one driver and it's more balanced, whereas the bottom is where is more reliant on one driver than the other. As we can see, Mercedes have the has the lowest reliance on one driver to get their points. You know, Russell, Hamilton 54% to 46%. You know, Ferrari second, Red Bull third, AlphaTauri are fourth, Alpine fifth, Haas sixth, McLaren seventh, Aston Martin eighth, Alfa Romeo ninth, Williams last, obviously because Albon's got 100% of their points. And it just shows you how competitive these drivers have been, how competitive they've been against each other, the share of the load of the points that need to be scored. And Williams obviously the most heavily reliant on Albon. Mercedes are the least reliant on one driver. So you know, like, I think my ratings are decently accurate. There are some asterisks. So Russell and Hamilton have been pretty close despite Hamilton's bad luck. Leclerc and Sainz a bit close. Again, Sainz was a bit unlucky, so there's an asterisk there. Alonso, again, an asterisk, been massively unlucky this season. Schumacher is now finally getting into his stride, so there's less load on Magnussen, even though it's massively reliant on him. Look at McLaren. Like, that's crazy. 79% for Norris, 21% for Ricardo. Again, Aston Martin, 83% for Vettel, 17% for Stroll. Bottas, 90%. He's gotten 90% of the points, whereas Zhou's only got 10%, and Albon, 100%. Latifi is embarrassing. But yeah, those are my driving ratings, mid-season driver ratings for the 2022 Formula 1 season. Let me know what you think of the season so far. Let me know if you massively disagree with my ratings. Do you think I'm a clown for some of the ratings I gave to some drivers? Do you think I have British bias? Do you think I have some bias towards some drivers and not towards others? And outline your ratings for each driver in the comments down below. And don't forget to please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Adios. Goodbye.